Hello, listeners. Welcome back again to the Leading with Integrity podcast. Today, I'm joined by special guest Anthony Amanategi, and we'll be talking about his experiences of leadership and business in the construction industry and a whole bunch of different industries that he's worked with and for over the years as well. He's also got some great insights into the power of mindset and how to really get the best from yourself before you can get it from others. So it's going to be a great one. Looking forward to it.
Welcome to the Leading with Integrity podcast. Leadership talk for the modern manager. With your host, David Hatch.
Well, Anthony, first of all, thank you for joining me today. It's great to have you on the show.
David, I am so honored to be on your show. You have an amazing show. The work you're doing is fabulous. I feel really honored to be here today. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Well, honored to have you. And I'm going to hand the reins over to you to start with to introduce yourself, tell the listeners a bit about your background, your career so far, and what you get up to today.
Thanks for having me on again. And it's a round question, right? Because the iterations of Anthony have been, multiple, right? I started my career off working for many large growth companies, companies like Blockbuster Video and Discovery Zone and Boston Market and very large international and national companies. And then about 25 years ago, I realized that there were companies out there buying cows to get milk. And what I mean by that is, the companies I worked for were development companies, fast growing companies, and they would bring on, $5 or $8 million worth of staff just to manage their development. And I realized what an odd thing to do if you're renting videos or selling chicken or doing something. And I said, look, I think I could do that for them on an outsourcing basis and give them the ability to capitalize their expenses on a project level. And we started a company called CDO Group, and that's really what I've done for the last 25 years as one of the largest companies. And today we do brands like McDonald's and Chipotle's and Starbucks, and we do some of the biggest brands in the world. And what we do is we help them find locations, manage their development process, hire GCs and subcontractors, and, do all the new stuff that you see. When you go to McDonald's, you see the new facelift. We do lots and lots of projects for brands like that. And so that's a big part of the entrepreneur stuff. And then from there, I've spurred off into multiple other companies. Today we have 9 companies, and some of them are as odd as a waffle business in Europe, or a podcast, or a TV show, so with CDO Groups really helped me learn to be a wider entrepreneur, and it's been a lot of fun. On top of that, I'm also here. The most important, I'm a husband to my beautiful wife, Sophia. I work for her. And then even more important to them is my 5 beautiful children. So I'm a father of 5, and that's a great role to have. And I really enjoy that's probably my favorite role as a human being.
Awesome. Yeah. Well saved there at the end as well.
Don't mess that up, because she listens to this and forgets I say that. I'll definitely get in trouble for that one.
I have some notes. Yeah.
That's right. They'll be on the refrigerator. Remember the time it said,
25 years in the construction industry then, and it sounds like, trying to think about the timing with Blockbuster, you probably got out just in time, didn't you?
So Blockbuster was really early on in my career. And then from there, I went to a company called Discovery Zone, which was a playground for kids. It was these big ball bins and slides, kind of a large Chuck E. Cheese or kids' playground. We built them all over the world. And then from there, we went to Boston Chicken, which became Boston Market. And then from there, I went to do a company called Einstein Bagels. They grew quite fast all over the U.S. And then from there, I went to a company called Aubon Pond, which was more like a airport or urban feeder. And they wanted to grow in the suburbs. So they bought a company called St. Louis Bread Company. And that St. Louis Bread Company became what we know today as Panera Bread. And I built the first 250 of those. And some guys that I worked with at Boston Market said, hey, I'd like your idea. We'd join up with you. And then we started CDO Group. And we literally started it on my basement floor. right? It was like, actually on the floor, and at a table, we ended up having this old dining room table that we put down there. And one person sat on one end, one person sat on the other end, and we started it out of nothing. We took two sticks, we rubbed them together and started a small little fire that created CDO Group.
Well, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. All of the biggest companies start in that way, didn't they, originally? I mean, Apple started in a garage, didn't it? And it's all good. Yeah.
It's fun to go back and look at those days. And, today I really realize that all a company it's an idea that somebody expands and organizes on. The whole game of growing a business is really, down to those two things: expand and organize. Now, the problem is that people don't realize that the space, that little space right between the two of those, is that part where everybody drops out, right? Because it's confusing as hell, right? You expand an idea. Okay, great. We want to start this little company. Great. And now we want to figure out, okay, how are we going to answer the phone? Back then, 25 years ago, cell phones weren't as big as they are now. We had to go rent an office, and we had to go get a phone system. Then we had to figure out how we're going to market ourselves. And I would call people and I would say, hey, we'd like to do your development work, and we'd like you to hire us to do your development work. And people were like, well, we already have people doing that. I'm like, well, we want to do it on an outsourcing basis. And they're like, what's outsourcing? Right? It wasn't a big thing 25 years ago. And then we just started with, we realized that people had these ebbs and tides of their process. So we would go a lot of development companies have they want to open a certain number of stores. And what happens is the end of the year gets really jammed up, right? Because people kind of get lackadaisical at the beginning of the year, and, construction itself isn't always predictable. But they always know they got to open by the end of the year because they've told Wall Street they're going to open up X number of stores. Now everybody's kicking everybody in the behind, going, hey, I need you to get this done by the end of the year because I need to make my projections. So we just started with finding a small little niche where we could just start doing that. And that was a good way to start, to get in. And then we realized there's people who hated doing certain types of projects. Like some project managers hate doing remodels, right? And they were like, look, I have to interact with operations, and operations is always grumpy, and we never satisfy them. You guys want to outsource that? Great. You'll take on those projects. We're like, we'd be happy to take on those projects. We're going to get paid. Great. Because when we're starting a business, you're broke, right? I don't know any of the young entrepreneurs out there that aren't broke. Good luck with it. I mean, that's awesome. But my experience was we were broke, and we would take on whatever work you didn't want to do. We would take on projects that no one wanted to fly to. There was, 2000, when the whole terrorist thing happened, with New York, people didn't want to fly. And we said, we'll fly, right? We got on planes and started flying like days after the whole thing happened. And we were just willing to go because that was an opportunity, right? There was a little opportunity there for us to go pick up a lot of work, and we did, right? And sometimes you just get lucky, and you got to just be ready for the opportunity and be able to go out there and be able to go out and attack it as fast as you can.
I think you're right. If you're not broke for the first few years of your new business, you've either been incredibly lucky or you're doing something not quite right.
I don't know. So it's just, you don't know yet, right? And the revenue streams, all your ideas are great, right? You have great ideas, but there's not an entrepreneur out there who has a 360 degree view of a business, right? You may, like, I'm really great at construction, but figuring out the accounting side of it. I mean, as soon as the word accounting comes up, I have to have another cup of coffee just to get myself excited to go, okay, I'm going to pay attention. And then, sit down and look at finances and budgets and forecasts and how we're going to plan this thing and how much money we're spending and all that stuff. I'm like, can I just do the construction part? I'm great at construction. I love, that's my passion. Give me construction. Help me, get out of the field and do what construction stuff happens. That's my passion, right? I love doing that because, I don't know, I'm really good at it. But now I have to go do marketing or HR, right? We have to hire people and we have to give them can you just come to work for us? No. They need a written agreement and they need insurance. And then I heard in my first 13 years of CDO Group, every year I would fire the insurance company every single year. For 13 years in a row, I fired the insurance company. And they're like, why? I'm like, every time they would come in and they'd say, we're increasing your cost. I'm like, are we getting more work? Are we getting more stuff? And the guy would go, nope, same. You're getting the same service you had last year, but now we're going to charge you X more. I'm like, well, get out of my office. Unless you're giving me more stuff. No. That's just how the insurance works. I'm like, I don't care. You're a broker. Go find me insurance at the same cost. Cause look, it costs us a lot of money for this insurance. And I was just offended by how expensive it was. And I would just, every year I'd fire the insurance company. And I was so mad because, and today, there's some things I realize about business that it's exhausting changing insurance companies, especially as large a company as we are today. And we find insurance companies are a little bit more reasonable. And, but it took some learning, right? That was 13 years of learning. Every year I would fire that broker, and it would be a joke. My assistant would come in and go, hey, it's time to talk about insurance. And they would all, like, the whole office would just be like, how long is it going to be from that insurance broker gets fired? Right. I would tell them every year, I'd be like, look, if you come into my office next year and you increase this by 10 or 15% and we don't have any added services, I'm going to fire you. I'm just telling you, just don't come walk in my office next year and tell me that. Just whatever you have to do, go get another insurance. You're a broker. I would buy it through brokers. So I'm like, you're a broker. Go find another brand to bring me. Don't walk in here and tell me it's 15% more without, some added value. And, they would walk in and they'd do the same thing and get fired. No office would laugh. And, it's just things you learn when you're coming along the development world.
Yeah, but I'm sure that stood you in good stead, though, because, a lot of people, it's like car insurance. It's the same ways here anyway. It doesn't matter what happens with your car during the year. Guaranteed, next year your renewal is going to go up at least 10%, probably 12, probably 15. And there's no reason for that other than, I think anyway, this is my pet theory, other than the insurance companies know that there's probably a majority of people won't check it, won't query it. They'll just let it auto renew. And so they've made 15% more off them that year. And it winds me up as well.
That's my whole, we can go off on a tangent on insurance.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun, but, David, there's each part of a business comes with its nuances. And, as I look at young entrepreneurs and look, we're getting ready to go into business, I don't want to discourage them, but I want to say, look, you got to make sure you have an appetite for what you're about to go through. Do not show up in the entrepreneur world thinking it's all easy. That, I've heard people say, to be an entrepreneur is to chew glass on a daily basis. And then every once in a while, look over the abyss and know that you're going to fall into it or feel like you're going to fall into it every day. And there is that sense, like, look, once you get responsible for other people, right, and customers, and you have to have an appetite for that. So be prepared when you walk in. We'll talk a little bit more about what I mean by be prepared. Right? There's some more of the you as an entrepreneur take more work than even the business does. Right? I have to be prepared as a human being to walk into the world to be an entrepreneur. And what I mean by that is mind, body, and soul. Right? I've got to be able to show up at the door to go to work every day. And I've got to do the things to make sure that I'm prepared to be there. And I don't deserve to be there if last night I didn't get enough sleep. I don't deserve to be there if I don't take care of my physical body, if I eat like crap and drink all night and wonder why my business is suffering. And so, well, I can't clearly see things when, and by the way, I've been there. Like, I've been a young entrepreneur and, I partied like a rock star. And it was great, but I would wonder why we never got those really big deals, right? We could break $1 million. I'm looking for $100 million companies, right? The little suffering of going through the ups and downs of a smaller company took just as much work as it takes to do a $100 million company. You just couldn't see that when you were acting inappropriately, right? When your behaviors were one of, not showing up prepared to lead a company. I'd see that. And that takes a lot, right? So it means not just being physically there, mentally there, but things like reading books, right? If I don't study and learn and continuously evolve, right? I show up with, great leadership is about bringing solutions from the whole world, right? I mean, great leaders take the billions and billions and billions of ideas on this planet, and they bring solutions to everything that needs to get solved in your business, right? What happens is, as I don't have that clarity of vision, when I show up exhausted or hungover or mad or stressed out, or if I bring my family life into, difficult parts of my life into the workplace, I can't see things clearly, right? I can't bring great solutions to it. My intuitiveness is lost. And most entrepreneurs don't realize that that's the most important part of being an entrepreneur, is self-care, that working on ourselves as much as we work on our businesses.
Yeah, it's a really important point. And I think it's like so many things, isn't it? You get out of it what you put in. So if you are showing up, hungover, or I don't know, maybe some people do it just before they've even got as far as the hangover. Maybe they're showing up drunk, who knows? But if you're doing that, you're not putting much in. You put, it's like the old database argument, isn't it? Rubbish in, rubbish out. So yeah, it's very important aspects of being a business owner. I mean, I would say a leader as well. Like, even if it's not your company, you've still got to show up in that same way, because there's people there that you're responsible for.
Don't stand in front of human beings to lead them unless you've done more work than they do, right? They don't deserve it, right? Don't, I've watched it and I see it happen all the time. Hurt people, right? When they come in and they show up at with their self-esteem and bust, right? When their lower self is there, right? Where I can't, when I start to really project my problems onto the people who work for me, I would do damage to humans, right? And that's where I could damage human beings and communities and really bring people down. And today, as a leader, that's not what I'm up to, right? I'm out here to serve people. And how as a leader, how can I make their lives better? How can I make sure that I start at my home with my kids and my family and my wife? And then how can I work with my mailman? And then when I show up at my front door of my office, how can I work on, how can the people here live better because of the work that we do? Do we hit the mark all the time? No, we'll make mistakes. And there's ups and downs to every great leader, right? There's days when you rock it, and there's days when you're like, whoops, I messed that one up, right? It's just a part of having a little grace for ourselves, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's the enlightened way of looking at it. Yeah.
I don't know if it's enlightened because...
Well, I think it is. Well,
I think most businesses chop wood, carry water, right? It literally it's a grind. And then every once in a while, you kind of check in and go, all right, let's kind of look back and go, how are we doing? Right? Let's notice how we're doing. And but the truth is, I can't do it alone, right? We bring in consultants and we bring people to check me all the time. I need a team of people around me that I can trust, that can call me out, right? The problem is I've got an ego, and my ego wants to defend its behavior. And, a lot of times I've got to bring someone from the outside world in to look at what I'm doing. And that's not, look, if you're not ready for that, it's not always pleasant to have someone call you out and on stuff that you believe, stuff that you believe. I was, my wife took over the company, during COVID, and, I went from being the president of the company to being the founder. And, the idea was that, it was time for us to really embrace the woman-owned company. And we really wanted to have, she had a whole different leadership skills than I did. I kind of ran the company like a Spartan war camp, right? You kind of, we're bred and fight, and from date of birth, we're all here to fight. It's very tough. And, sometimes you look back over the battlefield and you're like, man, there's some dead bodies back there. Right. And she said, hey, we kind of realized as a leadership team, that we could probably do this a little bit kinder and softer. And so we brought in a company to help us consult to make that shift, right? That was not an easy shift, right? Because you can imagine that a lot of my significance as a man came from being the founder or the president of CDO Group. Right? I'd walk into meetings and you'd ask me who I am. I'm the president of CDO Group, and right, you kind of define yourself there, and it was great because building a company gives you some significance. It feels good, right? Some you've achieved. And as I shifted out of that and she became the president of the company, the consultant one day comes in my office. She goes, hey, And she was this beautiful woman. She's kind of a redheaded and tall, but she's kind of a big personality. And she walks in my office. She goes, "Today we're going to lock your door." I'm like, "What?" She goes, "Yeah, today we're going to focus." I'm like, "Great, great, 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 great." I have an open door policy. People can walk in my office all day. It can be distracting, but I like the interaction with the people at the company. And she goes, "Today we're going to lock your door." I'm like, "Great, great. That way I can focus." And she's like, "No, today we're going to lock the door and keep you in it. You have some need to show your significance. So you've hired all these amazing leaders, right? All these people who lead these different departments, and you walk out there all day long and you pull the S out on your chest and you suck up all the oxygen in a room and you don't let them lead." "What?" Yeah. So you're not allowed to leave your office." "What?" She goes, yeah. And you top it off, you're allowed to talk to 6 people a week, and you get these 6 people, and you're only allowed to talk to them for an hour a week. "What? An hour a week?" I mean, I get here at, I get to my office usually somewhere around 6:30. I leave my office somewhere around 6:30. It's, 12 hours here. I get an hour a week with 6 people. Okay. So here's what I'll do. I thought to myself, all right, I'm going to start writing lists. And when I sit down with these people, I'll have, to do this and 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 this. And I found out, I've been doing this now for a minute, for a couple of years now. I've never, ever given anybody a list. That when I get an hour with them, I found out that they're really amazing people. They know the list. I spend time with them understanding who they are. How can I help support them as human beings? And that shift took, it was difficult. I'm not going to tell you that I didn't sit behind my door and bite my tongue and watch things happen in the company that I thought were not what I would have done. And there might have been some lulls, even times when I would see things go down, or we'd lose a customer, or we'd not go after something I would have gone after. And I had to sit back and trust them. And the truth is, it's turned out way better than I ever expected. We've broken numbers in the last couple of years that I never have. My wife creates an environment of culture and people all being seen from top to bottom. There's relationships and the way that we look at each other. And in construction, that's not something you normally have, right? And everybody's equal, and how we create an environment that where people are sustainable. Not that we don't work our asses off around here. Construction, you really do work your out. There's no getting out of this thing unscathed every day. There's work to do here. But the relationships between people, she brought something different. She really sees them and hears them and creates a culture of that. And that was a wonderful thing for me to go through. And I would not have done that had I not brought an outside company in to help me do that, right? Somebody who could help me see something I couldn't see. My ego would have defended itself and its way of being 100 times, 1,000. It would do that continuously, which, got us to that point, which was great. Now it's time for us to go somewhere different. And that's the hard shift for entrepreneurs, to know when to make that shift and allow others to take the reins and work with you or support you in different ways than you expected. I still have an active involvement. I still spend a lot of time with the leadership groups. I have a lot of, it's great. I get to be an active part of the company in just a much different way.
Yeah. And it sounds like you've really made that shift well. The self-awareness alone, the way you're talking about it, it must be quite interesting to look back and think, if I were doing that 20 years ago with what I know today, what would I have done differently, kind of thing.
There's where you got to be careful, right? Because there's that shame part of us. I think that everything we go through, and this is a statement that I learned, I've embraced. Everything we're going through is in service of the life that we're living. Everything. I mean, look, this podcast that we do together, right? The time that you spend putting the podcast together, the people that you bring on, every message that you listen to, every message that you share, all the light that you put on me and all your podcast guests, really does change the world in a way that it's hard to see now. Like, it's hard to connect the dots looking forward always, right? I've heard some great people say that, right? But when I look backwards and go, oh, that makes sense. Look at that. That's why we did that, right? Then you can see it a little bit brighter, but it's not always clear in the moment that this is whatever I'm going through. The ups and the downs are in service of the life that I'm going to live. And, So I think there's the opportunities to look at and go, look, even my toughest days, there's something there that's in service of the life that I'm going to lead. Right? How can that be true?
And I do firmly believe this as well. There's no point sort of the navel gazing, the what ifs and all of that. At the same time, it is an interesting thought exercise though. But, at the time, you can only make the best decisions of what you know at that moment. Completely agree. Yeah. And, so going back to that shift that you made and the locking the door example is really, really interesting. I've not heard of that one being done before, but it's a great idea. I love that. I might steal it. But the challenges in your mind that you're describing there made me think of the same, maybe not the same, but a very similar experience that a lot of first-time leaders go through, particularly when they've been practitioners of whatever it was their company does. And that shift from being the doer, in inverted commas, to being the leader. And I think that's why we have micromanagement. That's why we have people who really get in looking over the shoulder sort of types. And that's why it's because people are struggling to make that transition from this isn't your job anymore. Your job is to help and support and encourage the people whose job it now is. And it is a very difficult challenge, I find.
Yeah, for sure. I was great at, being a role X. Now you ask me to go to be the leader of all the X's in the world. And when I see them do something, I didn't, that was my problem, right? I had grown this company from its infancy. I'd done their role, right? I did that work here. And then we brought people in to take that on and just to trust that they're there. Now that becomes part of a training, right? That therein lies the gift of, if I were to tell leaders or young entrepreneurs, for me, I had to really expand my knowledge. Now, part of it was I couldn't do it with the behaviors I had. Like as a drinker and smoking grass and as a young man, I had a lot of kind of things that weren't really serving me. If I spent 4 hours a night buzzed, right? It was kind of that led to the way I ate, right? I get the efforts, right? A lot of times I'd be like, well, I've had a couple of cocktails, I'll eat this pizza, right? And then, then I wonder why I'm sluggish or my weight's off or why my self-esteem feels bad. Or the next day I wake up and I've got, I'm depressed because the amount of sugar I drank last night and where I get, my mood's not there, right? It's really tough to be in a jet engine and feed it, diesel gas, right? Sluggish and thick. It may work for some people, but it's not where I want to be, right? Where I want to be is I want to have clarity of vision. I want to be able to walk into my office and, I oftentimes related to, you ever notice that Santa Claus carries this big red bag? Right, David, that big giant bag he carries of toys.
Well, right? I've not met him, but I've heard that.
You see him in shows or movie, he's got this big red bag of toys. Well, a lot of us, I feel like I carried a big red bag of crap, right? And inside that life, I carried, inside of that bag, there was a lot of crap in there. There were a lot of things that weren't needed, right? If I look in there, I carried stories about my childhood. Look, I grew up, we were poor, right? My mother worked at Denny's. Well, you didn't have the life I did if your mom worked at Denny's, right? We were really poor. I had a whole story about that. I had things and ways of being that I carried with me that weren't helping me, right? And it wasn't just the way I ate or drank or the way I lived. It was the stories I told myself about myself. There was all kinds of places in my life that I had difficulty. I carried weight, and some of those things really caused me to have the inability to take on clarity of vision. So then, as I opened that bag up, and look, more coaching, more support, more therapy, right? As I opened that bag up and said, well, let's see here. Let's take a look at the story about your mother. My father died young. How could you die young and leave your kids? And, my mother had to raise me. And I started looking, going, wow, she worked at Denny's but she sent me to private schools, right? As I worked with some therapists, I said, all right, hey, look, let's look at why you carry this story about that. And this is one of those places where it's those touchy-feely stuff that people don't realize are affecting my leadership abilities, right? When I looked at it and said, well, you know, and I sat down and really looked at that and said, well, you really have this whole act that you have around being poor, and that's stopping your ability to make money, right? You have an upper limit. You don't realize that you can make as much money as you want. And I'm like, wow, that's a cool one to see. I never saw that. And we looked at it and it goes, let's reframe that. Look, you had a mother who did anything she could to raise you. Right? She even worked at Denny's and sewed shoes, and she did whatever she could to do that for you. You come from a fighting spirit. You now owe that woman, right? Now, how could that change my whole context of living, right? So some of the stories that I carried that didn't serve me, now I can go back and reframe those and look at them a different way. And today, when I get tired, I think I can't take another day. I can't read another book. I can't, if one more person calls me with a problem, that's it. I'm going to go to the airport with my credit card and just start flying. I'll leave everybody, right? Those days when you get tired. And for me, I have to really, really careful around the hungry, angry, lonely, and tired, right? Those are the halt. I got to be really careful around those times. So for me, it's usually right around 3:00 in the afternoon, 3:00 to about 6:00 at night, 6:30, somewhere around there. I get a little tired because I start my day early. I've been in the gym at 4:30. I've been working out. I have mornings are my energy. And then you get me to the afternoon, I get a little tired. I may have been attacked by a bunch of different ideas that I had to work through. Sometimes they're positive, sometimes they're negative, but I got to watch out for those, right? So learning your systems, your body, the way you're set up, finding others that can help you, guide you, could be the most valuable gift I would offer somebody, is that I can't always see things straight, right? That my ego and my brain have talked me into some BS. And if I want to go somewhere different, I'm going to have to start telling myself other things. And if I could have, I would have, right here. If I could have, I would have told, look, I'm not out to sabotage myself, but I've built these stories, right? There's kind of really what happened, and then my story about what happened. And I had to reframe those. And that really takes a different place to be. So as I started looking at some of those behaviors, like drinking, that was one of the big keys for me. Like for me, it was a really big key. And I know why I say that was because I kind of drank to excess. And then that was a domino that kind of made everything else have the efforts. Like, you don't need to do that. Or, hey, you don't need to work out. Or, hey, you don't need, right? Once I changed that one, it kind of changed another one. And as long as I kind of stayed there, then I started noticing, I want to do more of that. Oh, that's kind of fun. Oh, look at that. I read another book. I remember the first, I had never read 6 years ago, up to 6 or 7 years ago, I had never read in my entire life. I had never read a complete book. In high school, I would lie. In college, I would BS. I'd get the Cliff Notes. I'd watch a movie. Right? I'd never really read a whole book, and I end up in a spot where I start to, I remember the first book I read about 7 years ago, and today I now read almost a book a week. And they're thirsty, right? My brain can't wait to get another idea in it. And I'll take on just about any kind of book. Someone tells me about a new book, I'm like, all right, let's try that on. So I think that's kind of fun as we start to learn ourselves and, try on some, hear other people, have ideas. How can I apply those to my life? So
it's identifying what the obstacle is and then moving it out of your own way, isn't it? That's the real trick. Yeah. And it sounds like you're getting really good at that. So thanks for sharing your secret. Yeah.
There's days you're good at it. And then there's, this is what I really want to have grace for each other. Mm. I work really hard on my diet, and then Girl Scout cookies showed up at my house this week. And on Monday night, I dipped a Thin Mint into peanut butter. And I had I'm eating Thin Mints dipped in peanut butter. And I woke up in the morning disgusted. I'm like, you did what? I don't know what happened. I just had this. I was sitting in the kitchen. My daughter had some Girl Scout cookie. I thought, I don't know, my sugar addiction kind of popped up and thought that was a great idea. And look, you have ebbs and tides of it. There's never a time when I'm perfect. There's never a time where I'm pure snow. It's never going to be that way. That's the human experience, is that but the best thing to remember is just have a little grace for each other. Sometimes when you look at somebody and they're thinking, that guy's a jerk. What if the opposite of that could be true? What if, that's a story I tell myself. Like, what if that person's just going through something at this now moment, right? What if there's something going on there? And 9 times out of 10, there is, right? People, I've met people around this world. I do all the time, all the TV show that I'm working on, all the stuff that I'm working on. I've never met another man anywhere in the world or woman that isn't up to the same thing. They're all trying to build better lives themselves. Now, sometimes people show up scared, but really, basically, humans are good. They want good. When they show up and when you don't think that way, it's just a story we've created about the person, right? If it's a political thing, I mean, look, politics loves dividing us, right? People, that right or left or blue or green or whatever the division is. If we can be mad at half of the population, right? The government will keep taking our taxes and we'll not argue with them, but truth is most of those people on the other side want the exact same thing I do. Same thing. They just sometimes show up and differently. If I can have some grace for each other or myself, that might feel a little bit better.
Yeah. I think you're right. Fundamentally, yes, the vast majority. I think we have to believe that, don't we? Because otherwise it would be so difficult to live in the world. You can't ascribe the worst of motives to everyone you meet, can you? There's no way to live.
It's even the ones where I see, when I look at, terrorists, or they in their brain believe that what they're doing is fundamentally for a reason. Right now, I'm not going to say to you that I have some opinions on religion and politics that all are caused by or whatever those. But my belief is that therein lies some of the things we could work on, right? To look at just maybe they see it way different than I do. They're not naturally wrong, but in that moment, they believe something is, if they do it this way, they're saving their people, their culture. Now, how can I look at it and help us all see that some of the best stories that have ever been told are not true, right? Some of the stories that are out there are fundamentally wrong. And a lot of them were divisive, right? Politics and religions, finance. I mean, the money system is the best story ever told, right? And none of it's real, but we live by these stories that aren't real. And humans are great storytellers. We're the best storytellers that ever existed. And that's what really makes us what we are. Now, how do we shape that differently? And we start telling a story that has grace for each other, that supports each other. Where we're going is amazing. Look, as artificial intelligence comes by, really, we have to have, our lives are going to get dramatically different quickly, right? Very quickly. I mean, the amount of change we've all gone through in the last 15 years is amazing. The last 25 years, even more incredible. The next 15 years will promise to blow all of that away. And the best thing we can do right now is take care of ourselves. If we could just get ourselves mind, body, and soul in shape, right, in preparation for the massive amount of change that's about to happen, right, we can stay conscious and stay in a spot where we can be creative and be able to see things. Now, unfortunately, I feel like most people will check out, right? Most people will start smoking dope and drinking, and pot's becoming legal everywhere I go. I can't walk into a room or can't walk into a festival and everybody, look, we're checking out. I don't know how healthy that is for a community, right? And look, I also have grace that people are overwhelmed. We're all drinking off a fire hose of change. I mean, every time my freaking phone changes, it blows me away. So, all of what we're working on, just remember, have grace for each other and see what we can do to lend a hand to our neighbor who's just as overwhelmed as we ever were. And, maybe that will give us a chance to get through this massive amount of change together a little bit easier. We're going to go through it no matter what. The world will evolve. You cannot stop evolution. There'll be no way of stopping the evolution of what's happening. Even if one group said, I'm stopping, the other group said, somebody will keep going. And then the inequality will be there. We want to make sure that everybody kind of evolves kind of together. Anyway, it won't happen that way. I mean, some people will dig their heels in and go, I'm not changing. I mean, if you look at taxi drivers, they're a perfect example. You're like, hey, I'm not changing, but Uber's taken over and apps have changed. But there's guys out there going, nope, I'm not going to change. I've got this shield. I'm going to keep them going where I'm in. It's a cultural thing. And okay, great. Now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Blockbuster's the other example of that, isn't it? Is refusal to change, and look what happened to them.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, look, change is the only constant, isn't it? That's the cliche, but it's very true.
Absolutely.
And I mean, the pace of technology, when you think about it, it's getting exponentially faster, isn't it? I mean, if you look at, say, the last century, we went from just about having cars to supersonic flight in the space of 50 years. And then you look at the last 50 years, I mean, it's a different kind of tech. We're not advancing aviation or machinery as much, but electronics, the internet, small computers in everyone's pocket, on everyone's wrist even now, So, I mean, who knows where we'll be in the next 50 years? You just got to, resisting it isn't going to help you.
It will not help. I mean, just imagine, I always use an example. David, what did your great-great-grandfather do? Do you know?
I don't.
How about your grandfather? What did your grandfather do?
Both my grandfathers I know were soldiers. Nice.
Well, so just imagine that you go back to those soldiers, a couple hundred years ago, and you were able to hand them your cell phone. Right? And just imagine the complexity of what that would feel like. Right? Just to them, that phone would feel like something of the gods. Right? It'd be voodoo. It would be shocking, right? To be able to pull up all the information of the planet at any given time on your wrist, right? And be able to talk to anybody anywhere. That would have sounded like voodoo. It would have sounded the things that gods do, right? Gods talk to everybody, right? Today, your cell phone does those things. They could not see where they stood. They could not even imagine that would happen today. Today, the first time a car came by, they couldn't have imagined Uber. They couldn't imagine that you'd hit this little butt thing on your hand and a car would come to you, right? They were just amazed that, these were people that drove horses. Now there's this thing called a car. It smells funny, but now it drives and I don't have to feed it. Now all of a sudden, now cars come to me when I want. Self-driving cars are coming. Artificial intelligence is coming. The things that are coming down our pipeline, we won't be able to see from where we stand today. The best that we can do, knowing that it's going to change, there's no way of stopping it, is take care of us. If we can take care of ourselves, right? Stay mind, body, soul in a space where we're fit and can see vision and stay clear-minded, right? Look at them as opportunities. There'll be huge opportunities to exploit as we change. There always has been. There's the gift, right? When we went from phones, we answered 555 like this, or when we went from like this, or we went to cell phones. All of those changes came with opportunities. Now, for those who don't dig their heads in the sand and check out where we're going, can be a gold mine of opportunities. So therein lies the gift of the changes of the future.
Yeah, that's a really nice way of explaining it as well, actually. I don't know that we would have even possessed the language to explain it if we went back and gave them the phone, because it's not just about all the knowledge in the world. It's about, if you compare all the knowledge in the world now to all the knowledge back then, it's orders of magnitude different, isn't it?
Look, the magnitude of knowledge we have today, and that's what's really surprising is as we continue to learn ourselves better. I always love when people, those diseases didn't happen when I was a kid. Well, great. You had no idea how to articulate what's going on with people, right? ADD and problems we have that didn't exist 25 years ago. Well, look, today we're noticing that people have these isms and things that we carry and things that are really holding us back. And in that language, we're articulating more nuances. And in those nuances, we're able to serve people a little bit better. And that will continue to happen, right? We're going to continue to have these amazing amounts of nuances that are coming at us. And today, there are personal coaches and personal development people that are continuously articulating, more of the nuances that, as the human goes through what we're going through, as we go through this evolution, in the past, we had elders we walked with. You and I would be part of a hunting group, right? David, you might have been part of, might have been a skinner or a trapper, and you had an elder that told you how to walk and how to carry a spear and things that you were doing. They're we lost that in the Industrial Revolution. And today we get that from Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, and it doesn't feel the same. We don't trust it. Those are not the kind of likes I'm looking for. Now, today, now the pendulum's switching, and you're starting to see the evolution of coaches and personal development folks and trainers, and all of that's helping us go back through that. And I think it's important. Like for me, having a team around, I literally have doctors. I have a concierge doctor. I can see her every day if I wanted to. Right? I've got personal trainers and a therapist and people that help me check myself. I mean, look, I don't know who you are that doesn't need that, but you're telling yourself a pretty silly story, right? Because if I want, or if I want to change, if I want to do something, if I want to create something in the future that's different than I have today, I have to evolve. And I can't do that alone. I can't see it. I have stories that keep me where I'm at, that don't allow me to change. And best I can understand today is that I need someone to call those things out. Because if I could have, I would have. I would be there already. Right? It's not like I'm trying to sabotage my life. But if I want to evolve my life or try on some different things, I have to have someone call me out. Look, you can't dip Thin Mints in peanut butter and get away with that if you want to live to your 99. Right? That's not going to work, right? If you want to be flexible, you have to go to the gym and move. You have to look at your body and work on the instrument itself, right? You got to find people who can, in a loving, graceful way, guide me. And maybe sometimes not graceful. Sometimes you need someone who's militant who can, some people like it that way, right? Someone who can yell at you and get up in the morning, get your ass moving.
Yeah. It takes all sorts, doesn't it? Yeah. I think even if you're a skeptic about that sort of thing, though, I mean, everyone, I would hope, has to acknowledge the value of having a second opinion.
Yes.
So, even if you do think you know it all, what's the harm, to check? If you're right, you're just going to be even more kind of sure of yourself. And if not, you might learn something. So, yeah, interesting one. Have to say, by the way, peanut butter is one of my pet hates, and I can't imagine putting anything minty anywhere near it. That's just, I don't know how you did that.
Oh, listen, my mind, if it comes to sugar, right? The sugar is an addiction. I've done my best to really work on eliminating as much of that as possible, but it's just like a drug or alcohol. I find myself relapsing on it, and my mind will talk me into it. Oh, that's okay, right? Sometimes I wouldn't even know I do it, right? Sometimes I look at those behaviors and I'm like, that's funny, right? And I just know that a lot of my body systems don't operate well on processed sugar. I ache more. I'm lethargic. It slows me down. My clarity of vision isn't there. So today I look at my diet, the fuel I put into my body, how it's affecting my ability to really be present. And, throwing cakes and there's sugar in every flipping thing that's out there. There's sugar in. So, all right. That's awesome.
Let's talk a little bit more about the construction industry.
Sure.
What would you say are some of the biggest misconceptions about the industry today?
As you look at the business, there are, that people are trying, right? If you look at this world, construction people have built it. We have construction folks work their asses off, right? I think a lot of people think they're lazy or they're trying to get away with something, but it's a very complex system, construction. And we don't really look at that very often. Oftentimes we bust their chops and all the things that go into it. But construction is hard work. When I look at any of the systems we build behind, the people that work on those work their behinds off. And this country has been built on the hard work of really hardworking men and women across this country, right? There's been a great amount of effort taken around this world to build these amazing cities that we have, the places that we have, the homes that we live in, the sewer systems that keep us all. I mean, just imagine, 300 years ago, 400 years ago, people died because of raw sewage being out on just it wasn't safe. Your drinking water was tainted. More people drank fermented booze because they couldn't drink water because it wasn't safe. Today, we have this amazing water systems and supplies and sewer systems at work, and great engineers and great construction people have put that together. So we have that.
Yeah. It reminds me of, I don't know if you've been to Dubai at all, but there's a great, you go up the Burj Khalifa, tallest building in the world, and there's a gallery in there, and there's some pictures of Dubai in, I think it was the early 90s. There's like one building in the desert. And you look at it now, and it's massive.
A dream and some oil money can do one.
Well, yeah.
Well, but the vision of the king, it's beautiful. I mean, Sheikh has done an amazing job of creating a vision of a world where it's the world's playground, right? He's really taken and said, "Hey, look, we're building something for the future," and Dubai is an example of something like the world has never seen before. It's taken people from around the world to build it, architects and designers and people around the world. I did the World Dubai Expo last year for the World Expo, and it was fascinating, just fascinating. I mean, they did a great job with it. Dubai was such a welcoming place. Everything about Dubai I love, right? People come there to work. People don't want to get in trouble in Dubai. Why? Because they'll get kicked out of the country, and they're all living pretty damn good over there. They're working their asses off. They all have, even no matter where they are in the system, they're all doing fairly well. It's good to be, from there, but it's lots of opportunity for success in that community.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. What you can do with oil money and the right vision, but also, it's the construction industry that's realised that vision. So, to your point, you don't achieve that kind of massive construction and change like that from desert to massive city with lazy workers, do you? Let's be honest. So there you go.
They brought, workers from around the world. And there's a hierarchy of workers there from, the Indian population who runs it, the kind of management level, to, all of it. And they, I was talking about building a building over there just recently with some development folks. And one of the neat things about building a building there is you can build a residential tower, and before your shovel touches the dirt, somebody will come in and rent it out for the next 20 years. Right. And they'll give you full rental for it, and they'll kind of deal with you. So, there's companies that are bringing in workers from out of the country to help support the growth that's happening there. And it's amazing. They'll come in, they'll rent your building to support those workers, and, write your contract before you even get started. And that's pretty impressive.
Yeah. I imagine that certainly helps with the construction costs, doesn't it? Takes all the risk out of it. Yeah. Well, most of the risk. What did you learn in 2022 that you think is going to show the most benefit in 2023? And we're recording this early February 23, so you've got a bit of a head start answering. But
I think that, the biggest thing to notice that the pandemic brought us, 22 brought us, is that if you look in each other's eyes, there's a lot of people who are overwhelmed, right? My judgment is that I really notice how overwhelmed people are. And when we have grace for them, just know that the man or woman that you're looking at, whatever they're going through in that moment, they're overwhelmed. There are more things, choices, and ideas coming at them than ever before. Today we have a society of people who, it used to be 2-hour movies were great, and then 30-minute videos were great. Then 10-minute shorts were great. Now you're getting everything in 30-second bite, 15-second, 1-minute bites. Now they're just, the amount of information that's coming. I watch my kids, and they're on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube, and just the amount of stuff that's coming at them is amazing, but it's also having people have a hard time finishing a thought or an idea, right? I notice that even in myself, I oftentimes will start something, and just the amount of things that are coming at me in a given day make it difficult for me to finish anything. And I have to go back and start the same thing over multiple times. So in that, I try to focus on how can I be more focused on completing tasks at a time. And somehow that feels a little bit more fulfilling. It's difficult to do when you have 30 things coming at you at one time, and everybody you know has 30 things coming at them at one time. All of us are inundated with things and ideas and things we're working on. So I think that's the thing to really notice about each other.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the spinning plates problem, isn't it? You always got to keep them spinning. You can never quite finish. Yeah. Yeah. It's the technology thing again, isn't it? The pace of change, and now there's all this extra information that we've got to be able to assimilate. I don't know. I mean, it's probably easier for the kids though. I mean, when your brain is younger, it's a lot easier to pull that in and retain it all. Whereas, yeah.
Well, I think it's yes and no, because those development years, the ability to see something through, right? We came, when I started, there wasn't all this stuff. So you kind of got, you started a task. My father would say, go mow the lawn, and you would start a task and finish a task. Go clean the bushes, or go do something around the house, or it's time to clean the house. Well, today, I mean, the amount of stuff coming at my kids, it's difficult for them to complete a task, right? It's just one, the addiction to our devices. Like, just try to take a phone away from anybody, including myself. Look, I have, for the last year, tried to leave. We have a 2-story house, and I try to leave my cell phone downstairs. And every single night I talk myself into bringing it upstairs. Well, you're going to need it for your alarm, or what if something happens, or, in the morning you're going to need to be able to check in on this. And I don't want to come downstairs. And it's just, we're so connected, maybe even addicted to our communication devices. I try to experiment with myself since January. I've had no social media. And I would tell you, the withdrawal from that it's amazing. Like, oh my God, are people going to forget about me? My Facebook, I haven't put anything on Facebook for 2 months now. Oh my God, is that going to be, are people not going to know? Are they going to think something's wrong? And the truth is, my life is just fine. I'm okay. Nothing's imploded. None of my friends stopped talking to me. But I've noticed that I wasn't reading as much, right? At night, I would get myself caught up in these videos. And my time that I'd like to read before I go to bed, it kind of gets myself, like, it's my form of meditation, right? And I wasn't reading as much because I would be stuck on those, on those videos. And, then all of a sudden I wasn't sleeping properly. I just started noticing that I was spending computer time rather than reading time. And my want was to change that. So since, the beginning of the year, I said, all right, I'm not going to do social media. I turned off them. I took them off my phone. And every once in a while, I get like this little jolt to go find them, or somebody will send me something in email. Those social media platforms love to send you emails reminding you there's people on there talking without you being there. And I'm like, I wanted to like jump on that. I'm like, nah, let's let them go. Let's see what happens. Let's see how the experiment goes. If I can make it, 6 months without it, and see if there's any real need to be on there. Is someone is there a family member or someone who misses me?
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's, you've got to be very disciplined with it, I think, these days, or it's just invasive. Well, what we're doing right now, case in point for me, my phone's in another room and I've set it to do not disturb. So I know that I'm 100% focused on what I'm doing right now. And I do that for if I'm recording something, or if I have a key client task that needs to be done, and you just put it in its box, and that seems to work. Yeah, I'm terrible for it for when getting ready to sleep though. Definitely. I'm the same as you were. It's the constant videos, it's the Netflix, it's weird because at times I do miss the days where I would just, when I'm getting ready for bed, I'll be sitting there with a book for half an hour, and that's how I'll decompress. But at the same time, you can't put it down, can you?
No, have you ever woken up in the middle of the night and done videos?
Not videos. Check my emails a few times, although not in the last 3 or 4 years.
I found myself doing that one. I mean, my wife would be like, you were up in the middle of the night watching YouTube short videos, and I just would flip through them, and you'd start on one, and then all of a sudden you're like, I can't sleep. And then now I haven't done that in a couple months, and I sleep just fine. I'm like, I can sleep with that. Maybe I'll get up and go to the bathroom. I think that's just a product of being an older man. But I don't spend, an hour in the middle of the night flipping through videos. And what does that do to the REM sleep and my ability to be there? And what's surprising is I've made to the gym most every day, because I'm in shape and I'm not tired. When you spend an hour doing videos in the middle of the night, it makes it hard to go to the gym at 4:30.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah. And I was reading a thing a few months back as well. It's even something as kind of basic as the color wavelength of light that phones and screens emit.
That's right.
Is bad for the brain chemistry in terms of your ability to sleep. So it's not even just that you're distracting yourself. There's a physical effect as well.
And to believe that someone hasn't engineered that a little malevolently to keep us on there. They've really mastered the algorithm for, knowing what we want. I look at my algorithm compared to my son's algorithm, to my daughter's algorithm, and they've really got that secret juice of they know what videos I want to watch. They know they know what people I want to hate or what people I want to like. Right? It's designed intentionally. And there's where the scary part is, especially as AI gets developed. When AI knows me better than I know myself, that's an ultimate, that's really scary, right? Not even realizing that I didn't realize that it plays me well, right? There's no time on there. As soon as I start those videos, the time goes away, right? And it's like just one more. Oh no, the next one's even better. The next one's even better. I'm like, huh. Does that not sound like something I used to say when I was drinking? Or I'm gonna have one beer, and all of a sudden it's midnight and I haven't been home. And I'm like, isn't that what it sounded like when I was a drinker? It sounds a little bit like that. So just have awareness for it, and not to shame each other. Just as the pendulum shifts, having those awarenesses, and then being willing to step into an uncomfortable spot. Like, it's okay to be uncomfortable. You're not going to break because I don't have my Facebook open or my Instagram going or my TikTok going or whatever those other apps I had going. I didn't break. I've made it 2 months and I didn't break. Even when I got the little jolts to go from the little announcements, and I got through those, I didn't break. And I'm reading again. I've read some great books in this last couple of months. Some great books. I mean, they're phenomenal. So I'm really having fun with where we're going with that.
Good. Yeah, I'm pleased to hear it. I think where it gets really terrifying for me is, and I know we touched on politics earlier, but it's the Cambridge Analytica type abuse of it. That's the bit, when you're talking about democracy being undermined, anyway.
No, it's good. And we're heading that way, and all that stuff will come up.
Well, I mean, depending on which version of the documentary you believe, it's already happened, hasn't it? But
it's too late. I don't think it's too late, though.
No, I think, but the fact that we're aware of it is the first step, isn't it, to avoiding it in the future. But yeah, that's a rabbit hole of politics we probably shouldn't go down on a podcast about leadership and business. What is, if you had to pick your biggest lesson of leadership from your career so far, what would it be?
Just the biggest gift is knowing that I am 100% valuable. The biggest gift is knowing that there's nothing I am today do I have to hold on to for the guy I'm going to be. Right? Where I'm going has nothing to do with where I am today. Every part of me can evolve. And for that, I'm excited.
The best leaders are the ones who are always learning. And there we go. Love that.
Leadership Heroes.
Last question. This is my favourite question, so I have to ask it of every guest. I call it Leadership Heroes. And the question is, if you had to pick a person, alive or dead, past or present, real or fictitious, if you're feeling a bit crazy, who, in your opinion, would perfectly embody leadership, who would that person be and why?
People ask me all the time, who I think my favorite leader is. And to me, I think it has to be Leonidas, right? The Spartan king. I love that we were bred to be, to be a great leader. It takes some real focus and leadership, but more than that, it's community driven, that we do this because of our community and everything about it. So if I look back, it'd have to be Leonidas, the great Spartan warrior. I would love to spend a month or two or a dinner with him. In the whole concept of what it's like to be born and bred into a society of people who work for each other to make their living strong and powerful and safe.
Yeah, that's an interesting example. Not had that one before. I love the historical figures ones as well. They're always really interesting. I think what I find most interesting about Sparta as a culture, I mean, ignoring obviously the massively famous, the 300 Thermopylae and all of that, which was Leonidas, I think. That was his army. But as a culture, for the time, they were quite progressive in terms of gender roles and men and women and who was allowed to fight and who wasn't and that kind of thing. Not quite as progressive as modern times, obviously, but we're talking a few thousand years ago, aren't we? So, understandably so. But very interesting. Very interesting. Good pick. Awesome. Well, thank you again so much for taking the time, Anthony. It's been great talking to you. We've had some really interesting topics covered. Last thing is I always give everyone the opportunity, if they've got a podcast or a book or a business that they want to point the listeners towards, if they'd like to learn more about you and what you do.
David, first of all, thank you for having me on the show. I love your show. The work you're doing is amazing. I feel honored to be here today. Folks can find me on LinkedIn, Anthony Amunategui, AMUNATEGUI. You can find me at Future Factory Podcast. Again, Future Factory, it's on all the platforms. You can also email me at anthony@cdogroup.com. And for that, thanks for giving me the opportunity to be on your show. I'm grateful.
Thanks for giving me the opportunity to interview you. It's been lovely. Anthony, that was an awesome chat. Thank you again so much. Listeners, if you have enjoyed that, if you've found anything that we've said today interesting, you can find out more information on the various websites, email address, and LinkedIn profiles that are in the episode description. So do give those a click. And if you are a new leader, a first-time business founder perhaps, and you are expanding your team or you're responsible for leading for the first time and you're struggling with that, you don't know where to start, please do get in touch. There is a website again. It's www.leadernotaboss.co.uk/sign-up. That'll take you to a page where you can sign up for the mailing list, or you can hit the contact button in the top right corner and you can get through to me via email or phone if you like. And if you have enjoyed today's episode, please let me know. Leave a review on wherever it is that you're listening to this episode right now. Your feedback is much appreciated and it's really helpful as well. Thanks again for listening, and hopefully you will join me again next time. Be a leader, not a boss.